Welcome back to The Big Picture. My guest today is Warren Clark from the Better Business Bureau, and we're talking all things consumer information. One of the things, Warren, we talked about right at the top of the show is scams, and that is big today. I mean, people, whether it's your home phone or your cell phone or your email, you are bombarded with scams, things that are sent to you, phone calls that are made, and it's nonstop. I don't know whether I'm typical or not, but I get calls all the time that are, that they're scams. Now, I'm not sure the people out there are some people who are more vulnerable and more trusting that when they get a call and they say, well, here, you know what? Here's a perfect example. There was a call that came in not too long ago, and I'm going to let the call speak for itself. If we can pull up the audio from that phone call. It came on my cell phone.
Hello. This call is officially a final notice from IRS, Internal Revenue Service. The reason of this call is to inform you that IRS is filing lawsuit against you. To get more information about this case file, please call immediately on our department number, 206-823-3336. I repeat, 206-823-3336. Thank you.
Okay, now, my first question is, typically, on a call like that, if you call that number back, what happens? Do you know?
Well, yeah, typically if it's a call, and that sounded like a live call, so they were hoping to get you, as opposed to a robocall where they're really, a robocall would be a machine calling you where they're really just trying to make sure that it's a live number. Mm-hmm. And so that call, they're hoping to get personal information from you. So they're hoping that if you do call them that, they're probably they're not at that number. That number, I think 206 is the Northwest in the Seattle area. But that number, they could well be in India. And in fact, about a year ago, the FBI shut down a call center in India doing the IRS scam. It stopped or slowed down for a while. We didn't hear it much in upstate New York. And now we understand that it's back. And what happens is it's whack-a-mole. It's like the game at the fair where the little heads pop up, and so they shut one down and two more pop up because it's profitable, because they get people that answer, that are afraid. In your lead, you talked about people that are vulnerable, and it's interesting. We do a tremendous amount of community outreach with seniors all across upstate. I've got somebody today in Rochester and somebody in Albany doing scam events for seniors, and they're very vulnerable. They don't necessarily, we don't hear necessarily as well. We don't see necessarily as well, and we're trusting that we remember when somebody said they were going to do your driveway for $500, they did your driveway for $500. The other group that gets scammed tremendously are millennials, because they get scammed on those remote devices. So they look at something, they click on it. We just had somebody in the office that clicked on a dietary supplement, and the sample was $4 and change, and they got the sample, and that's all they wanted, but they had, by clicking, agreed to $70 a month for ongoing, and we helped them shut down their credit card and get it, and that was actually a legitimate company that had a product, probably garbage,
and small print,
and small print, and no print. It was the page, because nobody goes down. How many of us have read our Google or Amazon agreement, our M&T agreement, our bank agreement? So we look at it, we click, and sometimes that's when we're doing this conciliation process. A big part of the problem is people that don't know what they've agreed to. Working on a case right now with a gentleman who has a home improvement thing, and he signed a contract. He's not getting what he thought he was getting, but he's getting what he signed for. Very, very difficult situation.
Well, that's another subject, probably for a whole show's worth of subject. But when you have a contract, and it goes on, whether it's online or whether you're signing it in person, it goes for pages and pages and pages. and it's written in language that only a lawyer can understand. Is that reasonably something that you're expected to read through, number one, and to understand, number two? And I understand that you're signing it. I understand that they put it in front of you, and it's in English, but it's not really plain English. And when a court looks at that, I mean, isn't there some provision that, hey, the average person doesn't understand this?
There's actually two parts to your question. One is, should we do it? Do people read it? And then is it reasonable to expect? And no, it's not reasonable to expect it. But if you've signed, I had this years ago with a car rental. I was in the DC area, and the person said, do you want the insurance? Do you want this? Do you want this? I said, no, no, no. He said, okay, initial here, initial here. There were 12 people behind me in line. I'd already waited an hour, and I initialed all that stuff. And then when I got the bill, I got charged for all of those things. And I called up, and they said, well, Mr. Clark, you signed for that stuff. And you know, so it's very difficult. They want you to pretend that you read it, but then you're subject to problems. And that's frankly part of why we're here as the Better Business Bureau, because in some cases, now if somebody has indeed signed and a merchant doesn't want to help you, they have grounds not to help you. But what we try to do with the people that we're dealing with is to make some kind of a resolution. We actually do arbitration in the building, and we do it remotely through video conferencing across upstate. And a big part of that is that you get two reasonable people, a business that understands that the consumer misunderstood, and the consumer that understands the business wasn't trying to defraud them. And normally those kind of people can come up with some kind of a resolution. I like to say we put a lock system and a camera system in our offices, because we do some of them in the office, and if we really do a good job, nobody leaves happy. So it's an uncomfortable thing. But we really, for almost every case where the consumer doesn't get what they want, it's because they signed something and didn't really understand what they were signing.
And there's no way to get around that, right? I mean, like for instance, your example, you're under pressure to sign something, and in real circumstances, in the real world, you can't take the time to sit down and read page after page after page after page, and then go back and read it and try and understand those pages, and then sign it. I mean, in all reality, in all practical terms, the average person, it's tough to do that.
Well, it's nearly impossible, and as you say, it's pages and pages. I just leased a new car. And there were 8, 9, 10 pages multiple times for all the different pieces of it. In small print. They're in small print. It's gray on white or white on gray, and we're dealing with major reputable companies that both the dealership, who I trust with my life, and domestic manufacturers of vehicles, or any manufacturer of a vehicle, and the truth is that if I signed it, this was about 5 weeks ago, I'd probably still be there signing if I read everything that they wanted me to read.
Well, as I say, that's a subject that we can spend an hour just talking about that subject alone.
For sure.
But let's get on to a couple of other things before we run out of time, because we had about 3 minutes left. First of all, there is an app that you can get for the Better Business Bureau, and it has all kinds of interesting information that you can go to. It will, once it finds out where you are, it'll connect to our local area information.
Yeah, it's actually geo-targeting, so it's better even than just being local, in that if you were here and you wanted to get information because you're headed to Louisville, Kentucky, that you could get information on something in Louisville by typing that in, but it automatically geo-targets. You can just in either the Google or the Android app stores at Better Business Bureau. Our website, bbb.org, has a tremendous wealth of information. As I said, all the complaint information, the back and forth, how long people have been in business. And again, we don't discourage people from going to the review-only sites, but you need to understand that they're not always honest reviews. That in some cases, there's actually people trolling the internet, offering to pay you for reviews, positive or negative. So depending if they want to make a company look good or bad.
Okay, and we got 2 minutes left. The other thing that I want people to know is if you give to charity and you've got a favorite charity, that's fine, but if you want to look into the different charities in Western New York, for instance, that you want to find out whether they're for real, whether or how much money actually goes to the cause as opposed to administrative fees and so on. You do a review of charities.
We do, and it's very different than our business reviews. First of all, there's no cost to the charity to do it, and it's 20 standards there are a couple of major GuideStar, Charity Navigator that do 990. So they'll just tell you, they post the 990, and if you want to read 147 pages and try and figure it out, that's fine. This is this gives you, as you said, what percentage goes to the actual services, what percentage do they have a high-paid CEO and then perhaps all volunteer, their governance, do they have enough board meetings, do they have non-paid board members, and interesting, this is actually it's an optional program for Better Business Bureaus, and because my business background, which preceded my being with the Bureau, it was a very important thing to me. It was done on a trial basis many years ago. It was one of the first things we did, and it's important because there are many, many charities that sound alike. There are some 10,000 charities in the United States with the word cancer in them. Less than 20% of them are legitimate. Within hours of every major catastrophe, you'll see fake charities set up. So the best way you can do is go to bbb.org. Again, if it's a local charity, or with the Boston Marathon bombing, within hours there were fake ones. The BBB in Boston worked with Charity Strong, set that up, or Boston Strong rather, and set that up, and then advertised it across North America so people knew that this was a BBB approved charity that met the standards.
Well, suffice it to say, Better Business Bureau has a lot of information for you. It can keep you out of trouble. It can give you the best direction to go in for your value, your dollar, and it's a good source of information. Go to the bbb.org. That's
bbb.org, very simple.
Okay.
And again, any information on over, I think something like 11 million businesses in North America, in upstate New York, over 50,000.
Okay. Well, that's it for the Big Picture this week. My thanks to Warren Clark for being my guest. Thanks so much to you for watching. Thanks for watching WBBZ-TV, and we'll see you next time.